For a long time, I believed that my biggest problem was simply not having enough money. Every month felt like a never-ending cycle of stress and worry about where the next paycheck would come from, whether I could pay the bills on time, or if I'd be able to afford those little luxuries that used to seem so effortless before. I kept telling myself that if I just had a little more income, a better job, or some kind of stroke of luck, everything would automatically fall into place. But despite chasing that elusive sense of financial security, I noticed something strange. The more I focused on scarcity, the more scarcity seemed to cling to me. Money wasn't flowing as I hoped, and my frustration only grew. I remember nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling exhausted not just physically but emotionally drained, as if I'd been running a race I didn't even remember starting. I was always waiting for the next month, because somehow, that's when things would change. But that promise of change never arrived. Instead, I found myself stuck, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of unmet expectations, caught in a loop of anxiety that drilled into my mind every time I opened my eyes in the morning. It was as if I had built a wall around myself, one made of worries and doubts, and I didn't even realize it until one day. I woke up feeling even more drained than usual, with the vague feeling that something was fundamentally wrong, but I couldn't quite identify what it was. The turning point was almost invisible at first. It was in the small moments, those fleeting instances when I caught myself feeling defeated, when I'd noticed the tension coiling inside and thought, this must be just how life is. I'd tell myself that I was just unlucky, that the world was unfair, or that I'd simply been handed a bad card. But deep down, an uneasy voice kept whispering that my constant fatigue and anxious anticipation weren't entirely about circumstances. I started to suspect that perhaps I was living in a mental space that wasn't compatible with the abundance I secretly craved. That maybe the problem was less about money and more about how I was feeling, how I was vibing with life. It took me some time to realize that I had been operating on a specific frequency, the frequency of survival. My thoughts, my emotions, even my habits, all aligned around the idea that everything was a struggle, that resources were scarce, and that I had to fight just to get by. That mindset created an internal environment where I felt trapped, helpless, and increasingly disconnected from the flow of prosperity I believed was out there. I learned that my persistent stress and anxiety were not just random feelings. They were signatures of my energetic state. The more I focused on lack, the more I attracted it. It was like tuning an old radio to the wrong station, and the static was all I could hear. But something shifted in me when I started questioning whether money was really the root of my problems, or if I was simply broadcasting a signal that kept money away. I began to realize that my emotional frequency mattered far more than I'd ever given credit for. That my feelings, my thoughts, my beliefs about worthiness and abundance were shaping my reality in ways I didn't fully understand, at least not consciously. I still remember the first time I felt a flicker of hope, something small, subtle, yet undeniable, that maybe, just maybe, I could change my tune. That I could start aligning myself with a different kind of energy, one of creation rather than deprivation. That was the beginning of my journey, and honestly, it's still ongoing. The more I've learned about how to tune into a higher vibration, the more I see that money isn't the true issue. It's the internal landscape that determines whether money comes easily or feels like a constant battle. I want to share that story because I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. Many of us carry invisible burdens, believing that lack is the default, that financial struggle is just part of life, that we have to work harder or be more deserving to attract abundance. But what if it's actually about something much deeper, a shift in how we align our thoughts and feelings, a recalibration of the internal signals we send out into the universe? This isn't about magic or luck. It's about understanding that your energy is the currency before money ever appears, that your feelings are the magnet for what you truly want, and that maybe, just maybe, the way to transform your finances isn't through sheer effort alone, but through tuning into a frequency that resonates with prosperity. I invite you to come with me on this exploration, to look beneath the surface and discover how your inner world can shape your outer reality in profound ways. Because I've already seen how compelling it is to realize that everything begins within, and once you understand that, your entire relationship with money can change completely. As I pushed further into this understanding, I began to see how deeply intertwined my emotional state was with my capacity to attract prosperity. It's as if my energy acts like a filter, shaping the vibrational frequency I emit into the universe. When I operated from a space of desperation, my mental tape repeated stories of scarcity, which only amplified my feelings of being stuck. But shifting out of this mentality required more than mere hope. It demanded a conscious decision to reconfigure my internal landscape. I started to pay attention to subtle shifts in thought patterns, noticing every time I slipped back into a cycle of doubt or anxiety. Recognizing these moments became crucial because they served as flags highlighting the internal alignment I needed to rebuild. In this process, I understood that every emotion I experienced was a signal, an indicator of whether I was aligned with abundance or pulled into the depths of lack. It's akin to tuning a musical instrument. If the strings are out of tune, the whole composition sounds off. Similarly, when my feelings are rooted in worry, my vibrational instrument is discordant, pushing away opportunities. Conversely, cultivating sensations of gratitude and trust creates a resonance that naturally attracts corresponding energies. Such practices can feel almost like daily calibration routines that reinforce the inner harmony necessary to manifest financial ease. Over time, I learned that intentionally producing appreciation for what I already have acts like a magnet, drawing in greater abundance. Another layer of this understanding is the notion that our subconscious mind plays a pivotal role in setting the tone of our financial reality. Many of us carry deeply ingrained beliefs inherited from our environment, family, or past experiences, stories we may not even consciously recognize, but that operate as foundational filters. These subconscious convictions often masquerade as truth, silently guiding decisions and emotional responses. For me, uncovering these hidden scripts required quiet reflection and honest inquiry. I had to ask myself which beliefs about worthiness, money, and success were still quietly dictating my actions. Once identified, I found that intentionally replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones was transformative, like rewriting a faulty software program into one optimized for abundance. This process reveals how crucial it is to address not just surface feelings, but the core internal stories we carry. Addressing these narratives involves gentle repetition, visualization, and affirmation, all aimed at rewiring neural pathways that have been wired in scarcity mode. It's similar to planting seeds in soil that's been overused for a different crop. To flourish, the environment must be cultivated with patience and care. Likewise, my subconscious needed consistent nurturing to accept new, abundant perceptions. The shift didn't happen overnight, but gradually, I could feel the internal landscape changing. As I replaced old doubts with new convictions rooted in abundance, my emotional frequency elevated, and harmony with prosperity became more natural. Further, I discovered that much of the resistance to wealth stems from a subconscious fear of losing stability or facing change. It's an innate survival mechanism that often kicks in when we think about expansion or abundance as a threat. Confronting this fear meant acknowledging its presence without judgment, recognizing it as a signal that internal safety needed to be restored. I learned that affirming my worthiness and trusting in the universe's intelligence could weaken the grip of these fears. It was about developing a new relationship with uncertainty, seeing it not as a threat, but as an opening for growth. This shift empowered me to loosen my grip on control, enabling me to flow with prosperity rather than fight against it. This journey illuminated the fact that abundance isn't solely about external resources. It is primarily an internal state of readiness. When I began to view financial flow as a reflection of my internal coherence, a profound responsibility emerged. No longer could I blame external circumstances because I understood how deeply my beliefs and feelings dictated my experiences. It's as though I was holding a mirror up to my internal world, and the reflection I seen was a direct result of my vibrational habits. By intentionally aligning my mind, heart, and actions, I created an environment conducive to natural overflow. This realization became a cornerstone in transforming my relationship with money from one of persistent struggle to one of effortless expansion. In essence, shifting my vibrational focus became an act of self-love. Cultivating gratitude and genuine appreciation for every step, no matter how small, reinforced a sense of sufficiency that was previously absent. It's like watering a plant regularly. The roots grow stronger and the plant flourishes. Gradually, I understood that abundance stems from within, an abundant mindset that invites wealth to become a natural extension of who I am. From this vantage point, I saw that my thoughts and feelings weren't just fleeting moments, but powerful signals that could set the course of my financial destiny. And with each conscious choice, I helped craft a version of myself more aligned with that ongoing flow, more in tune with the limitless possibilities available when internal harmony reigns supreme. Once I began to recognize how integral my subconscious narratives were to shaping my financial experience, I understood that addressing only surface-level emotions was insufficient. Beneath each surface wave of frustration or hope, there existed a core set of convictions that quietly dictated much of my reality. These beliefs acted as invisible cords, subtly pulling and guiding my decisions, often without my conscious awareness. I became aware that to truly shift my financial flow, I needed to unravel those subconscious tapestries, exposing threads woven from past disappointments, inherited attitudes, and societal conditioning that had become deeply embedded in my mind. This process was akin to peeling back layers of a complex painting, revealing hidden details that had long been obscured by the thick layers of paint accumulated over years. As I delved into my mental archives, I began to see how certain recurring themes, the notion of never having enough, the fear of not being enough, the idea that wealth was reserved for others, acted as dominant archetypes controlling my perception of possibility. These mental images, once acknowledged, could then be rewritten, much like editing a script that had been playing in the background of my life. Instead of scripts rooted in lack, I started to introduce new narratives emphasizing potential, abundance, and my capacity to attract resources. In this exploration, I also discovered that how I handled uncertainty played a pivotal role. Many of us resist ambiguity because it triggers a sense of instability, which can lead to reactive behaviors driven by scarcity consciousness. I recall moments when the slightest hint of unpredictable change sparked a surge of anxiety, prompting me to grasp tightly to what little I thought I controlled. Over time, I realized that surrendering the need for total certainty, allowing space for spontaneity and faith in the process, significantly altered my vibrational output. Embracing uncertainty became a spiritual practice, transforming it from a source of tension into a catalyst for growth. Another insightful realization emerged when I considered the concept of energetic boundaries. Sometimes, I was so focused on fixing external shortcomings that I neglected to protect my own energetic space. Connecting with the idea of personal energetic hygiene, I started to visualize a sanctity around my mindset and intentions. Clearing out mental clutter, residual doubts, resentment, or envy helped strengthen my vibrational frequency. This was comparable to maintaining a garden. Weeds sap nutrients and hinder growth, whereas nurturing the healthy plants encourages a lush harvest. Tending to my mental state intentionally meant more than just positive thinking. It involved creating a safe mental environment where empowering thoughts could thrive and manifest confidently. Furthermore, I uncovered that fostering instantaneous gratitude in daily moments can critically influence my ability to attract abundance. It wasn't simply about listing things I was thankful for, but cultivating a state of appreciation that radiated from within. Sometimes, I would pause amidst my busy routine and focus soulfully on a simple act, like the warmth of sunlight on my face or the taste of my morning coffee, and immerse myself fully in that sensation. These micro-moments became like unlocking tiny gateways that opened to larger possibilities. With consistent practice, this cultivated a momentum where appreciation acted as a vibration elevator, raising my energy higher and making me more receptive to opportunities that matched that elevated state. Building on this, I also found that visualizing my desired financial reality requires active engagement of my sensory faculties. It's not enough to merely imagine wealth as a distant or vague concept. I would vividly picture detailed scenes, counting stacks of money, hearing the satisfying clink of coins, feeling the solidity of a new opportunity in my hands. Through sensory immersion, I anchored my focus into these images, allowing my subconscious to accept these possibilities as real. This process became a form of energetic training, rewiring my neural pathways to treat abundance as a natural, undeniable aspect of my life rather than an unattainable dream. The more I engaged this creative faculty, the more aligned I felt with the frequency of already having what I desired. Another dimension I explored was the importance of cultivating a sense of autonomy in financial matters. Instead of relying solely on external circumstances or other people's actions, I began to center my power in my decisions. This shift required relinquishing feelings of helplessness and recognizing that I always held agency over the choices I made. Whether it was adjusting my spending habits, seeking ways to learn new skills, or shifting my perspective from scarcity to abundance, each action reinforced my confidence and reinforced my capacity to generate change. It became clear that moving into a state of empowerment not only facilitated wealth creation, but also fostered a resilient attitude that could withstand setbacks without losing momentum. In essence, fostering this sense of independence and agency created a self-sustaining loop. Each successful step inspiring further action, each inspired action reinforcing a brighter expectation. It's similar to planting a seed that, once nurtured with consistent care and intention, blossoms into a thriving tree bearing fruit. That fruit, in turn, fuels more growth, both tangible and intangible. This cycle replaced feelings of dependency and doubt with a profound trust rooted in my proactive participation. As my energetic posture shifted from reactive to intentional, I started attracting resources that resonated with my new and more confident self-image. Recognizing this power within me ignited a deeper commitment to shape my reality consciously, building a foundation that could support ongoing expansion and abundance. As I delved deeper into understanding the unseen mechanics behind my beliefs, I realized that changing my thoughts alone was insufficient without addressing the subtle emotional patterns that silently dictated my actions. Emotions are like the wind passing through a forest. They shape the tree's growth and direction without the trees ever needing to consciously adjust. I learned that many of my feelings about money stemmed from past experiences, moments of disappointment, shame, or guilt that left imprints on my subconscious, creating a chain reaction in how I perceived opportunities. Recognizing this, I began to see my financial fluctuations less as random luck or failure and more as echoes of these deep-rooted feelings that act as energetic blockages. To truly unlock the flow, I found it necessary to adopt a more compassionate attitude towards myself. I started to treat my emotional wounds with kindness, understanding that they weren't flaws but signals pointing to areas where healing was needed. For example, I would catch myself feeling unworthy whenever I received unexpected income, and instead of dismissing it, I would pause and gently ask where this belief originated. Connecting with the root of such feelings enabled me to dissolve resistance that might have otherwise kept wealth at bay. Consequently, I embraced a practice of unconditional acceptance for all aspects of my financial story, including the mistakes and setbacks. This acceptance created an environment where transformation could genuinely take hold, free from the distortion of self-criticism. Building on that, I realized that affirmations are powerful tools. They act like seeds planted into fertile ground of receptivity, but require active nurturing. Merely repeating positive statements dryly, without emotional engagement, can be ineffective or even counterproductive. Instead, I designed daily rituals that infused affirmations with feeling. I would close my eyes, breathe slowly, and vividly imagine a financial abundance flowing into my life, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for each deposit, no matter how small, that arrived. This active emotional involvement amplified the energetic vibration I transmitted, sculpting a more compelling signal for the universe to respond to. It's as if I were tuning an amplifier. The more intensely I felt the truth of my abundance, the clearer my vibrational signal became. Further, I discovered that engaging all senses in visualization can intensify the process exponentially. For example, I would imagine myself walking into a space filled with the wealth I desired, perhaps a new home, a thriving business, or countless moments of financial ease, and really immerse myself. I'd pay attention to the textures, the scents, even the sounds associated with these scenarios. How would it feel to hold a stack of money, to see that satisfied smile on my face, to hear the subtle notes of success whispering around me? The richer the sensory details, the more convincing the mental picture became, and consequently, the more aligned I was with attracting it. This approach shifted my focus from passive wishing to active creation, nurturing my ability to manifest through the power of vivid imagination. Now, consider how this applies when faced with setbacks or doubts. I noticed that resistance often arises not because of external circumstances, but because of the stories I tell myself about what's possible. Whenever I encountered moments of frustration, I didn't try to suppress them. Instead, I welcomed these feelings as necessary signals that I was pushing against old mental barriers. Recognizing resistance was crucial because it revealed where my subconscious mind was still holding onto beliefs of scarcity or limitation. I began to see these moments as opportunities to intentionally reframe my perspective. Instead of spiraling into negativity, I'd pause, breathe, and remind myself that each challenge was a stepping stone, a signal that I was aligning further with my desired reality. I gradually cultivated a habit of viewing obstacles as part of the unfolding process of expansion rather than signs of failure. Another shift in my approach came from understanding how vital it is to create psychological safety around wealth. I started to envision myself as a magnet, naturally attracting resources because I felt deserving and open. This wasn't about forcing positivity, but about genuinely feeling a sense of readiness to receive. I'd test this by deliberately acting as if I already had what I wanted, making decisions from a state of abundance rather than lack, speaking about wealth with confidence, and celebrating small wins as if they were signs of a greater flow. These behaviors reinforced my belief system and, over time, shifted my energetic signals from dull and static to vibrant and resonant. It felt like plugging into a power source that already pulsed with potential, allowing wealth to flow effortlessly into my experience. Ultimately, cultivating patience became one of my most valuable lessons. I realized that real change takes time, especially when rewiring long-held convictions that act like embedded roots. It's tempting to seek quick fixes, but genuine transformation demands persistence and trust. As I stayed committed to my new practices, whether intentional gratitude, sensory-rich visualizations, or compassionate self-talk, I noticed subtle but steady shifts occurring. Small signs of abundance began to appear, seemingly out of nowhere. These weren't coincidences, but the tangible results of a consistent energetic shift. Recognizing this, I became more confident that the universe responds to the consistency and sincerity of my focus, like a gardener tending patiently to a delicate sapling, knowing that with care, it would flourish into something bountiful. Once I committed to shifting my energetic rhythm, I saw how my emotional landscape functioned like a marketplace, an active exchange that determined what I attracted. If I entered the space feeling depleted or resigned, I inadvertently signaled a scarcity signal, attracting closed doors and unfulfilling opportunities. Conversely, cultivating a sense of abundance was akin to opening a vast, luminous corridor where possibilities could flow freely. It became evident that maintaining this new emotional stance was an ongoing act of choosing to see abundance everywhere, even when daily realities seemed stubbornly resistant. By becoming more conscious of my emotional responses, I could identify when I was slipping back into old patterns and promptly redirect my focus, as if rerouting a damaged signal back onto a clearer frequency. Another aspect I explored involved intentionally shifting my physical posture to mirror confidence and receptivity. Standing tall, breathing deeply, and moving with purpose subtly communicated to my subconscious that I was ready to receive. These physical cues had a ripple effect, reinforcing my emotional openness. I noticed that in moments when I'd straighten my back or take a deliberate breath, a wave of calm would wash over me, melting away tension that had previously blocked my energy flow. It's almost as if my body partnered with my mind, creating a feedback loop that expanded my capacity for accepting prosperity. This physical alignment wasn't about superficial gestures, but a reflection of internal conviction, an outward symbol of inner trust that opportunities could come without force or struggle. Building upon that, I began to realize that fostering a sense of service can dramatically amplify this vibrational shift. When I shifted my mindset from asking, "What can I get?" to "How can I serve?" everything began to change. This approach tapped into a powerful principle. Giving without attachment moves us into a more generous vibration, one that attracts ongoing flow. I started looking for ways to contribute value through kind words, supporting others, or sharing my skills, without expecting immediate return. As I did so, I noticed a subtle but persistent feeling of flow. It was like my energy was watering a garden that responded by producing fruits, often unexpected, that exceeded my previous notions of success. By focusing on service, I found myself naturally opening to receive more in response. Another layer worth considering relates to the concept of intention becoming a living force within each action. I observed that when I moved through my day with focused, heartfelt intentions, my efforts gained a transformative quality. For instance, instead of performing tasks mechanically, I would set an intention, be it gratitude for the opportunity, a desire to uplift others, or a commitment to my own growth, and infuse each action with that purpose. This practice transformed mundane routines into rituals of alignment. As I began to do things consciously, I noticed an energetic uplift, like a gentle wind filling the sails of my endeavors. This deliberate alignment created a momentum that carried me forward, making obstacles seem more surmountable because I viewed each step as part of a greater, meaningful flow. Thinking about how to deepen my vibrational frequency also led me to focus on emotional forgiveness. Releasing grudges and past disappointments wasn't simply an act of healing, but a strategic move to clear energetic blockages that kept me tethered to scarcity. Lingering resentment acts as a form of internal resistance, an anchor holding my energy in place, preventing growth. I started to see forgiveness as a gift I gave myself, freeing my emotional system from heavy chains. As I let go of notions of deservedness based on judgment or past pain, I felt a lightness emerge, as if I had shifted into a higher domain of openness and receptivity. This act of liberation cleared space within myself, enabling fresh, unobstructed currents of abundance to flow in. From this vantage point, engaging in acts of alignment became a daily practice rather than a sporadic effort. I would set aside moments for quiet reflection, just a few minutes where I visualized incoming prosperity and felt that familiar gratitude. I trusted that these small daily rituals built a resilient mental and emotional foundation that could weather inevitable setbacks. It's this consistency that gradually reconfigures one's internal blueprint, transforming entrenched beliefs of limitation into vibrant visions of limitless possibility. Opportunities that once seemed elusive now appeared with surprising clarity, in perfect harmony with my renewed vibrational state. The more I emphasized this internal work, the more tangible evidence I saw, from new connections forming to resources aligning seamlessly, affirming that mastery over my emotional expression was a catalyst for my external circumstances. Building on my understanding, I realized that one of the most overlooked aspects of vibrational alignment is conscious choice. Our daily habits aren't just routines. They serve as deliberate acts that shape energetic conditions. When I looked at my habits through this lens, I saw how tiny shifts could have a ripple effect, creating cascades of change I had previously dismissed as insignificant. For instance, replacing scrolling mindlessly through social media with a moment of silent reflection changed not just my mood, but my overall vibrational foundation. By consciously choosing where to place my attention, I was directing energy toward states of openness and receptivity, which in turn attracted more opportunities aligned with those feelings. Another perspective that gained clarity with time is the importance of energetic boundaries in daily interactions. It's common to absorb the energy of others without realizing it, especially in environments loaded with stress or negativity. These energetic seepages can jolt us out of alignment, pulling our focus away from what we wish to manifest. To counteract this, I started visualizing a luminous shield around myself, an energetic filter that allows positive energies to flow in while repelling doubt or fear. This image became a protection, enabling me to stay anchored in my desired emotional state throughout demanding conversations or emotionally charged situations. As I practiced maintaining this boundary, I observed how my internal frequency remained more consistent, making it easier to stay aligned and attract what I desired without interference. Consider how certain environmental factors influence your mood and vibrational state. Lighting, sounds, even scents create subtle stimuli that either lift or drag our emotions towards specific frequencies. Once aware, I intentionally curated my surroundings. Soft lighting, calming music, and natural aromas became essential components of my space, all serving to deepen my vibrational resonance. For example, I began opening windows to invite fresh air and natural light into my workspace, which didn't just perk up my energy, it helped me feel more in tune with abundance. This environment conditioning reinforced my state of being, transforming the physical space into an extension of my inner alignment. Quickly, I discovered I was less susceptible to mood swings triggered by external chaos, because I had established a sanctuary that kept my frequency steady and receptive. In addition to adjusting physical surroundings, I cultivated the habit of aligning my feelings through movement. Engaging the body intentionally has profound effects on emotional states. When I would notice lingering tension or negativity, I would take a moment to stretch, dance, or simply breathe with more awareness. Movement served as a pathway to release stubborn blocks and recalibrate my energy field. For instance, I might stand and stretch, stretching my arms toward the sky as if inviting abundance to flow into my being. These physical acts send signals to both the subconscious and energetic layers that I am open to receiving, creating a feedback loop that amplifies feelings of capability and receptiveness. Using my body as an instrument, I was able to elevate my vibration swiftly, anchoring myself in higher states rather than getting caught in patterns of worry. Now, consider how language shapes our internal and external environment. Words are powerful creators. They carry vibrational energy that influences our state profoundly. I became more mindful of the phrases I used, not just in self-talk, but also in conversations with others. Instead of framing desire as something I needed desperately, I would express it as already done, verbalizing a sense of fulfillment and abundance as if it was a present reality. I am aligned with prosperity, resonated more deeply than I hope to attract more money. This linguistic shift rewired my subconscious to accept success as something I deserve and already have in my energetic field. Over time, these affirmations became automatic, transforming my perception and reinforcing feelings of confidence and trust in my capacity to create wealth. Furthermore, I discovered that redefining what abundance means freed me from narrow ideas tied solely to money. Instead, I expanded my conception to include joy, fulfillment, meaningful relationships, and personal growth. Recognizing that every facet of well-being contributes to overall vibrational harmony opened new avenues for manifesting what I desire. When I shifted my focus to cultivating balance and gratitude in all areas, I found wealth tending to flow with greater ease. This broader approach allowed me to feel more connected to an abundant flow that isn't limited to material possessions, but encompasses every aspect that elevates life. Consequently, aligning with this multidimensional version of abundance became a natural part of daily practice, making my energetic signals more consistent and resilient. Finally, embracing patience emerged as a vital aspect of maintaining high vibration. I understood that rapid shifts create resistance if not sustained, leading to frustration. Instead, I committed to steady, gentle refinement of my state. Each day, I dedicated time to recalibrate, whether through breath, visualization, or gratitude, and trusted that these small adjustments were laying a sturdy foundation. When setbacks occurred, I no longer viewed them as failures. Instead, I saw them as misaligned signals, cues telling me to readjust and recenter. This compassionate perspective transformed the process into a journey of continuous growth, gradually reinforcing my confidence that sustained vibrational harmony was indeed attainable. In this space of patience and perseverance, I discovered that effortless flow wasn't about forcing change, but about letting the organic process unfold naturally, guided by my clear, unwavering intention. Reflecting on this journey so far, I see how the threads of thought I've pulled are intricately woven into a fabric far more resilient than I initially perceived. It's as if every insight, every shift in feeling, has been like tuning a complex instrument, each adjustment subtly altering the harmonic resonance we emit into the unseen field of potential. From the depths of subconscious belief systems and emotional patterns to conscious choices in daily habits, each element acts as a vital piece in the puzzle of inner alchemy. The subtlety lies in recognizing that transformation doesn't require upheaval, but instead calls for a gentle, persistent refinement, like a sculptor chipping away at marble to reveal the form already contained within. The pieces begin aligning not through grand gestures, but by cultivating awareness of our inner landscape, fostering a delicate dance between intention and feeling that gradually rewires the energetic blueprint we live by. In this dance, the importance of intentional calibration becomes clear. Every moment invites us to decide whether we anchor ourselves in doubt or lift into trust, whether we engage with life's offerings through a lens of abundance or scarcity. This subtle choice, made again and again, builds a momentum that can propel us beyond familiar limitations. The road of internal shifts is unlike a linear path. It resembles a spiral, where each rotation brings us closer to a core truth that's always been accessible, yet often obscured by layers of conditioning. When I observe how my internal environment responds to these nuanced adjustments, I see that genuine change has a quiet power, one that transforms from undetectable beginnings into a substantial, ripple effect across my outer circumstances. It's not about forcing or fighting, but about aligning so personally with a new frequency that everything begins to harmonize itself naturally. What begins to surface is the recognition that sustaining this waves of internal harmony requires a kind of vigilance, an ongoing dialogue between the subconscious stories we've inherited and the conscious intentions we craft to replace them. As I navigate this terrain, I become aware how every thought, every feeling, stitches together a vibrational tapestry. Strengthening that weave involves not only noticing when I drift into familiar doubts, but also consciously weaving in threads of appreciation, trust, and unwavering focus. Each small, deliberate act acts like a seed planted in fertile ground. What may seem insignificant at first begins to bloom into a rich mosaic of confidence and openness. Over time, I perceive a remarkable shift. The internal vibrations I cultivate begin to ripple outward, reshaping the external conditions in ways I once thought were purely dictated by circumstances beyond my influence. This process, in its quiet elegance, reveals the profound impact of consistency. As I develop a keener sense of my inner tone, I see how the energetic environment I yearn for isn't a distant, unreachable goal, but an ongoing vibrational state I can nurture through sincere intention. It's as if I carry an internal compass that, when properly calibrated, guides me gently but inexorably toward opportunities aligned with my highest good. The subtle art lies in trusting the unfolding without clutching tightly, allowing space for grace and serendipity. With each internal recalibration, I witness how the external world begins to reflect my inner evolution, how shifts in perception and feeling materialize into new facets of experience that previously seemed out of reach. In holding this awareness, I sense approaching an intersection where internal mastery becomes the unshakable foundation of external flourishing, a place where the boundaries between what is felt and what manifests dissolve into a seamless flow. There's an anticipation of a point where effort is replaced by effortless alignment, a state where harmony reigns freely, orchestrating life's symphony in perfect tune. At its core, this awareness calls for patience and reverence for the process, recognizing that the most profound metamorphosis is initiated within and unfolds in time. As I stand at this threshold, I feel the subtle hum of newfound certainty that everything I seek is already in motion, waiting for me to access the space where my internal conditions match the abundance I know is possible. As I stand here now, reflecting on the shifts I've made, I see how deeply intertwined my inner world has become with my outer reality. The journey wasn't about some grand breakthrough overnight, but about cultivating a steady awareness, an ongoing practice of tuning into the subtleties of my energy. Every thought, every feeling, began to feel like a brushstroke painting a new picture, one rooted in possibility instead of limitation. I learned that roots of doubt run deep, but they don't have to define the landscape I live in. Instead, I chose to nourish new seeds, ideas of abundance, trust, and worthiness, and gently tend to their growth through mindful attention and self-love. The core insight I carry now is that true transformation emerges from within, not from external circumstances alone. When I shifted my focus inward, I started to see the universe responding outside of me in ways that mirror that internal alignment. It's almost as if I'd been carrying a mirror all along, and once I cleaned the fog from its surface, the reflection became clearer. Possibilities, opportunities, connections, all waiting for me to recognize them as part of the abundant energy I emit. This realization shifted the entire perspective through which I view my life's circumstances, fostering a profound sense of agency and grace in every moment. The deeper I go into this understanding, the more I appreciate that reconditioning the mind and heart isn't about forcing change, but about gently opening space for it. Patterns rooted in scarcity start to lose their grip when I intentionally lean into a sense of trust. It's a subtle act, like loosening a tight knot, allowing new sensations of gratitude and openness to flow through me. Those moments of genuine appreciation become small miracles, seeds planted that grow into sustained feelings of fulfillment. Over time, as I continue to redirect my energy, I find myself evolving into someone who naturally radiates vitality and resilience, attracting circumstances that align with this vibrational shift. Part of this evolution involves understanding that self-awareness is the navigator, guiding me through doubt and distraction toward clarity and purpose. The more I observe my habitual reactions, how I cling to worries or cling to routines that no longer serve me, the clearer it becomes that my focus has power. Choosing to elevate my thoughts, to see challenges as opportunities for growth, transforms the internal landscape into a fertile ground for manifestation. When I embrace what's present without judgment, I'm able to redefine my relationship with obstacles, viewing them less as enemies and more as invitations to deepen my trust in the process. I've come to see that consistency remains the secret ingredient. Daily moments of quiet reflection, even in the busiest times, keep my vibrational lens clear and receptive. These practices act as anchors, reminding me that I am the creator of my reality, an active participant shaping my experience through internal alignment. Instead of waiting for some external validation, I acknowledge the immense power of my intentional focus. It's a gentle reminder that life responds predictably to the energy I nurture within. The universe is always conspiring in my favor, waiting for me to match its rhythm through my feelings and convictions. Now, I understand that this isn't a matter of perfection, but of patience, kindness, and perseverance. Every step forward may be small, yet it compels ongoing momentum. When setbacks arise, I simply view them as necessary lessons, signs that I'm still, sometimes inadvertently, tuning into old frequencies. This awareness is what fosters resilience, encouraging me to recenter and refine my internal melody. Over time, I've seen how consistent, heartfelt effort gradually rewires the subconscious, allowing the natural flow of abundance to emerge effortlessly. It's like learning a language. Soon enough, that language becomes second nature, and speaking from a space of possibility and ease feels authentic and automatic. In the end, this path ultimately returns me to a profound truth, that my relationship with abundance is an internal conversation, one I can always choose to direct toward hope, trust, and gratitude. No longer am I subject to the whims of circumstance, but instead a conscious co-creator whose vibrational state invites abundance into every sphere of life. That awareness transforms the way I move through each day, filling it with purpose, joy, and expectancy. There is comfort in knowing I've unlocked a sacred key to look inward, align with what I truly desire, and know that the universe, in its infinite wisdom, responds in kind. And as I carry this knowing, I see that the journey isn't about reaching some distant goal, but about embracing the beautiful unfolding of each moment as part of the grand design.